Donald Trump stormed onto Jimmy Kimmel Live, ready to roast the host into oblivion, mocking his dying ratings, pathetic career, and desperate obsession. But the second Trump started laughing at Kimmel's expense, the host sat back with a deadly smirk and flipped the entire night upside down. In one savage counterstrike, Kimmel unleashed a shocking DNA bombshell about Trump and Ivanka that left the studio in total chaos and the president speechless. It was supposed to be just another wild night on Jimmy Kimmel Live, but the second Donald Trump stepped onto that stage, the whole studio felt like it was wired with electricity. The lights were bright and hot, the crowd packed tight in their seats, buzzing with nervous energy. The moment Trump walked out, flashing that big, cocky grin like he already owned the place. The audience clapped and cheered, but it was mixed with a few gasps. This wasn't some actor or comedian sitting across from Jimmy. This was the President of the United States, ready to throw punches. Jimmy Kimmel sat behind his desk with his usual relaxed smile, but his eyes were sharp. He welcomed the crowd like always, cracking a quick joke to loosen things up. Trump settled into the guest chair, leaning back. For a second, the room went quiet. Then Trump jumped right in, no warm-up, no small talk. "Your ratings are in the toilet, Jimmy," Trump said, his voice booming across the studio. "Terrible! One of the worst hosts in late-night history. Everybody knows it. You're a failed host, and your show is dying." He didn't even wait for a laugh. He reached into his pocket, pulled out some crumpled notes, and started flipping through them like a fighter getting ready for round one. The crowd let out some nervous chuckles, but you could tell people were shocked at how direct he was going. Trump kept rolling, waving his hands big and dramatic, leaning forward in his chair. "You're obsessed with me, Jimmy. All you do is talk about me every night. It's sad, really. Pathetic." His voice got louder, full of that classic Trump energy, pausing for effect like he was at a rally. He gestured toward the audience, smiling wide every time someone laughed. "Late-night shows used to be fun. Now they're just attacks on the president. It's disgusting." The studio felt heavier with every word. People shifted in their seats, some whispering to each other. Kimmel didn't interrupt. He just sat there, listening, his face calm, but his eyes locked on Trump. No smile now, just watching. Then Trump dropped the big one, leaning in closer, his voice dropping a little before exploding again. "Any late-night show that disrespects the president should be canceled. Done. Over. We don't need that garbage on TV." The words hung in the air like a challenge. The audience went dead quiet for a beat. A few people gasped, others held their breath, eyes wide, waiting to see what would happen next. This wasn't just jokes anymore. It felt real. Kimmel still didn't move. He stayed completely still in his chair, staring straight at Trump with cold, steady eyes. No anger on his face, no comeback yet, just that quiet stare that made the tension thicker. Trump noticed and grinned even bigger, like he thought he'd already won the night. Trump didn't stop there. He was just getting warmed up, and the roast turned into a full-on assault. He leaned forward in his chair, pointing with those crumpled notes like they were weapons. "Look at your career, Jimmy. It's been one flop after another. Remember that interview where you froze up with the celebrity guest? Awkward as hell. The whole country saw it. Your monologues? Nobody's laughing anymore. Ratings keep dropping because people are tired of the same old, boring attacks." He laughed at his own lines, waving his hands big and theatrical, really playing to the crowd. "You've got these weird little quirks, too, always making those faces like you're constipated when a joke doesn't land. It's sad. A guy like you, sitting here every night, desperate for attention. You used to be fun, Jimmy. Now you're just angry and irrelevant." The audience let out some laughs, but they were getting nervous. Trump was going hard, hitting below the belt, and it felt personal. Then Trump pointed straight at Kimmel's face, jabbing his finger across the desk with a huge grin. "You live just to attack me. That's your whole life, isn't it? You wake up thinking about Trump. You go to bed thinking about Trump. Obsessed. It's actually kind of pathetic when you think about it." He threw his head back and laughed loud like he'd just told the funniest joke ever. The studio lights caught his expression, pure confidence, like he owned every inch of that stage. Kimmel didn't say a word. He didn't even flinch. He just sat there, listening, then slowly leaned forward a little in his chair. His eyes stayed locked on Trump, calm and cold, like he was studying every move. That small shift sent a weird chill through the room. It wasn't anger. It wasn't fear. It felt like Kimmel was setting a trap, and Trump was walking right into it without even knowing. The audience could sense it now. The storm was coming. People shifted in their seats, whispering to each other. Some were still chuckling at Trump's jabs, but others looked tense, leaning forward, waiting for the moment things would explode. The energy in the studio had changed. It wasn't just a funny roast anymore. It felt heavier, like something big was about to break loose. Trump kept hammering away, but the room was starting to feel different. The laughs were getting quieter, the tension thicker. Kimmel had stayed silent long enough. He finally leaned forward a little, looked Trump right in the eyes, and spoke in a calm, steady voice that cut through all the noise like a knife. "You've said some pretty interesting things yourself, Mr. President." That was it. No shouting, no big dramatic attack, just those simple words hanging in the air. The studio went dead quiet for a second. Everyone leaned in, holding their breath, waiting to see what bomb was about to drop. Trump raised an eyebrow, still trying to keep that cocky smirk on his face like nothing could touch him. But you could see a tiny flicker in his eyes. Kimmel didn't rush. He gave a small nod toward the control room, and the big screen behind them suddenly lit up. It was an old clip from 2006, back when Trump was just a businessman appearing on The View. The younger Trump filled the screen, smiling that same bold, confident smile everyone knew so well. Then the words came out clear as day, his voice echoing through the studio speakers. "She does have a very nice figure, and if Ivanka weren't my daughter, maybe I'd be dating her." The audience exploded with gasps. It hit like a punch to the gut. A huge wave of shocked breaths rolled through the crowd. Some people literally covered their mouths with their hands. Others sat bolt upright in their seats, eyes wide, whispering, "Oh my God," to the person next to them. A few even let out nervous laughs because they couldn't believe what they just heard. The clip played for a few more seconds, letting those words sink in deep and heavy. This wasn't some late-night joke. It was Trump's own voice from years ago on national television talking about his own daughter like that. Trump jerked back hard in his chair. His face turned red fast, a deep flush climbing up his neck. For the first time all night, that unbreakable confidence cracked right in front of everyone. He tried to laugh it off, forcing a big grin and waving his hand like it was no big deal. "That was years ago," he muttered under his breath, but the smile looked fake and stiff. His eyes kept darting from the screen to Kimmel and back again, like he was searching for a way out. He shifted uncomfortably in his seat, trying to sit up straighter, but the damage was already done. The cocky energy from earlier was slipping away. Kimmel didn't jump in or pile on. He just sat there with a small, knowing smile creeping across his face. No extra words, no victory dance. That quiet little smile said it all. It was calm, controlled, and somehow more powerful than any shout could ever be. The whole studio felt the shift. What started as Trump's loud, one-sided roast was now turning into something much darker and heavier. The audience was still buzzing, people turning to each other, shaking their heads in disbelief. Whispers spread like wildfire. "Did he really say that?" "That's his daughter." The energy in the room had completely flipped in just a few seconds. Trump tried one more forced chuckle, adjusting his tie and looking out at the crowd like he was still in charge. But everyone could see it. The man who came in swinging was suddenly on the defensive, and Kimmel hadn't even raised his voice yet. Trump was trying to recover, shifting in his seat and muttering something about old news. But Kimmel leaned forward just a little, his voice calm and almost casual, like he was talking about the weather. "That's cute, but I've got something even bigger. Lights, please." The studio lights dimmed slightly as the big screen behind them flashed on again. The crowd went quiet fast, sensing another bomb was coming. Kimmel didn't raise his voice. He just looked straight at Trump and dropped it. DNA proves it. Ivanka's baby with her dad. The words hit the room like a thunderclap. For half a second, everything froze. Then, the audience erupted. Loud gasps, shocked screams, people jumping in their seats. Some covered their faces, others yelled, "What?" While a few actually stood up in disbelief. The giant screen lit up with a fake DNA report, complete with official-looking charts, percentages, and bold red text spelling out the claim. It looked real enough under the bright lights to make the whole thing feel insane. Trump's reaction was instant and explosive. His face turned deep red, almost purple with rage. He bolted up from his chair so fast it nearly tipped over. "That's disgusting," he bellowed, his voice cracking with fury. "Fake news! You're a liar, Jimmy. This is a total lie." He waved his arms wildly, pointing at the screen, then at Kimmel, his hands shaking with anger. The president lunged forward, trying to grab the microphone on the desk like he wanted to shut the whole thing down himself. Security guys near the stage tensed up, ready to step in. The studio was pure chaos now. People were yelling, some laughing in shock, others booing or cheering. The energy was electric and messy. Phones were out, hands in the air, the whole crowd losing it at the same time. Trump kept shouting over the noise, his tie loosened, face sweating under the lights. "This is rigged. Fake. You can't say that on TV." He looked completely rattled, all that early confidence gone in seconds. Kimmel stayed seated the whole time, cool as ice. He waited for the noise to dip just a little, then delivered the line with perfect calm, looking Trump dead in the eyes. "You started the roast, Mr. President. I was just finishing it." The audience went absolutely wild. Laughter exploded across the studio, mixed with huge applause and loud cheers. Some people were on their feet clapping, others were doubled over laughing at how perfectly the line landed. Boos for Trump mixed with roars of approval for Kimmel. The sound was deafening, stomping feet, whistles, everyone completely hooked on the moment. The contrast was brutal. Trump standing there red-faced and fuming, still waving his arms, while Kimmel sat back relaxed like he'd just ordered a coffee. Trump glared hard, breathing heavy, but for the first time he seemed lost for words. He slowly sank back into his chair, still muttering fake under his breath. But the fire had been knocked out of him. The DNA claim and that cold comeback had flipped the entire night. What started as Trump's big, loud roast had turned into total chaos, and Kimmel was now running the show without even raising his voice. Trump stayed standing, refusing to sit back down. His face was still flushed red as he jabbed a thick finger straight at Kimmel across the desk. "This is fake evidence, Jimmy. Deep fake garbage. You made that up to hurt me and my family." His voice roared through the studio, loud and furious. He wasn't holding back anymore. "You're a desperate loser who has to lie to get attention. And let me tell you about your own family, Jimmy. Your kids, your wife. They must be so embarrassed by the trash you put on TV every night. How do they even look at you?" The audience reacted with a mix of gasps and shouts. Some booed Trump, others cheered him on. The energy was boiling over. Trump kept pointing and yelling, his body tense like he was ready to jump across the desk. He doubled down on the personal attacks, calling Kimmel a sad, broken man who only existed to tear down successful people. For a moment, it felt like Trump might regain control with pure rage. Kimmel didn't stand up. He stayed seated and simply pressed a button. The speakers crackled to life with a clear audio recording. A former Trump staffer's voice filled the studio, calm but serious. "I worked for him for years. The comments about Ivanka weren't one-offs. It was a pattern. He'd joke about it in private all the time. Everyone on the team heard it." The audio played loud and crisp, no static, every word hitting hard. The ex-staffer described multiple instances over several years, naming dates and specific rooms where it happened. Trump's eyes went wide. He tried to shout over the audio. "Stop the show! Turn that off right now! This is illegal! Fake audio!" His face twisted in anger, veins bulging on his forehead. He waved his arms wildly, knocking a water glass off the desk. "Cut the cameras! This is rigged! You can't air this garbage!" He looked completely unhinged, yelling at the producers in the back, demanding they end the segment immediately. Kimmel remained calm in his chair, his voice steady and low, but every sentence cut like a knife. "Mr. President, the American people deserve to hear the truth. You came here to roast me. I'm just showing receipts." He paused as the audio continued playing. "This isn't one old clip. This is a pattern you hid for years." Trump kept trying to interrupt, screaming louder, but Kimmel's cool delivery made his outbursts look even more chaotic. Then, Kimmel nodded again toward the screen. "And here's more proof." The big monitor updated with a more detailed DNA report. It showed clear timestamps, lab names, percentages, and a line that read, "Expert confirmation, 99.8% match." The graphics looked sharp and official under the studio lights. The audience lost it completely. People were yelling, standing up, some cheering wildly, while others screamed in shock. The studio turned into total chaos, phones flashing, feet stomping, security moving closer to the stage. Trump stared at the new report, his mouth open, face pale under the red flush. He tried one last shout, "This is a witch hunt!" But his voice cracked. Kimmel just looked at him with that same steady gaze. The detailed evidence on screen, combined with the audio, had pushed the night into full meltdown. The crowd was on fire, half the room laughing in disbelief, the other half roaring with reactions. Trump finally dropped back into his chair, breathing hard, looking smaller than when he first walked in. But Kimmel wasn't done yet. He leaned back slightly in his chair, eyes still locked on Trump, then gave another small nod to the control room. "One more thing the American people should hear," he said calmly. The big screen lit up with a never-before-seen clip. It was raw footage from years ago, Trump in a private meeting with his old campaign team, laughing with a drink in his hand. His voice came through crystal clear. "Ivanka's got the best body in the family. If she wasn't my daughter, I'd be all over that. Come on, it's just a joke, right?" The team laughed nervously on the tape, but the words landed like a bomb in the studio. The audience lost their minds. Gasps turned into outright shouts of disgust. People were yelling, some covering their ears, others standing up and pointing at the screen. The clip played on, showing Trump doubling down on the crude joke while his staffers shifted uncomfortably. It wasn't staged. It wasn't edited for TV. It was Trump in his raw, private moment, and now the whole world was hearing it. Trump tried one last desperate move to take back control. He forced a loud, booming laugh, slapping his knee like it was all hilarious. "This guy is a desperate loser," he shouted, his voice cracking halfway through. "Jimmy, you're a total desperate loser digging up fake crap like this." But the laugh sounded weak. His hands were shaking. The cocky confidence from the start of the show was completely gone, replaced by a shaky, broken version of the man who had walked on stage. Kimmel looked him dead in the eyes and delivered the final punchline, sharp and ice cold. "You came here to roast me with jokes, Mr. President. I came with your own words, your own voice, your own DNA, and your own staff who couldn't stay quiet anymore. That's not a roast. That's the truth catching up to you." The studio exploded into total madness. The audience hit its peak. People were on their feet screaming, booing, cheering, stomping. Some yelled, "Holy shit!" while others clapped wildly. A few former staffers who had been planted in the crowd as surprise witnesses actually stood up and cheered Kimmel on. The noise was deafening. Whistles, chants of "Kimmel, Kimmel!" mixed with angry shouts at Trump. Phones were everywhere, recording every second. Security moved closer as the energy turned chaotic and electric. Trump's face went pale, all the red anger draining away. He stood there for a second longer, mouth open, then slowly sank back into his chair with a heavy thud. No more shouting, no more big gestures. He just sat there, staring straight ahead, completely stunned and speechless. The man who had dominated the first half of the show now looked small and broken under the bright lights. Kimmel turned straight to the camera, calm as ever, like none of the chaos around him even touched him. "Tonight wasn't about ratings," he said clearly, his voice steady and strong. "It wasn't about politics or entertainment. It was about truth. The truth always comes out, folks." The audience erupted into the loudest applause of the night. It didn't stop. People clapped, whistled, and cheered for a full 30 seconds straight as the lights began to dim. Trump stayed frozen in his seat, eyes blank, still trying to process everything that had just hit him. The screen slowly faded to black while the roaring applause continued, echoing through the studio like thunder. The roast that was supposed to destroy Jimmy Kimmel had completely backfired. In one wild night, everything had flipped, and the whole country would be talking about it for years.